The taser struck with the sound of splitting bone. 50,000 volts coursed through the German shepherd's chest, the dog. Valor, 18 years old, 68 pounds of muscle and loyalty, convulsed once, twice, then collapsed onto the rain-slick pavement of Pine Street. His legs kicked at nothing. Foam gathered at the corners of his mouth. Harrison Cole didn't see it happen. He couldn't see anything, hadn't for 7 years. But he heard everything. The crack of the weapon, the high-pitched yelp cut short, the heavy thud of Valor's body hitting concrete. And in that moment, standing blind in the middle of a Portland intersection, with his white cane extended and his heart hammering against his ribs, Harrison Cole understood that something had gone terribly, irreversibly wrong. His hands shot forward, groping through empty air. "Valor!" His voice cracked. "Valor!" The second taser hit Harrison in the upper chest. His world exploded into white-hot agony. Every muscle in his 58-year-old body seized at once. The cane clattered from his grip. His knees buckled. He went down hard, palms scraping asphalt, the metallic taste of blood flooding his mouth where he'd bitten his tongue. Somewhere above him a voice shouted, "Stop resisting!" Harrison wasn't resisting. He was trying to breathe, trying to understand why his Tuesday morning walk to the VA clinic had turned into this nightmare. Trying to find his dog. His fingers scraped across wet pavement, searching. They found fur. Warm, not moving. Then darkness took him. But before we understand how Harrison Cole ended up tased and bleeding on a Portland street corner, we need to go back. 72 hours earlier. To a different kind of morning. A quiet one. The coffee was too hot. Harrison knew this because he'd made it the same way every morning for the past 11 years. Black. No sugar. Water heated to exactly 200 degrees in the electric kettle that beeped twice when ready. 4 scoops of Folger's classic roast measured by touch into the French press. 4 minutes steep time counted by the kitchen timer's distinct buzz. The routine mattered. When you couldn't see the world, you built it from patterns. Harrison sat at the small kitchen table in his one-bedroom apartment, Unit 4B, Cedar Grove Apartments, Southeast Portland, and wrapped both hands around the mug. The heat seeped into his palms. His fingers trembled slightly. They always did. Not Parkinson's. Not yet, anyway. Just the legacy of too many close calls with too many explosions in too many countries most Americans couldn't find on a map. Traumatic brain injury, the VA doctors called it. Mild. Like there was such a thing as a mild bomb blast. Across the small kitchen, Valor's nails clicked against the linoleum. The sound moved from left to right, from the dog's water bowl near the refrigerator to his food dish by the back door. Harrison had memorized every sound in this apartment. The hum of the ancient refrigerator, the rattle of the radiator when heat kicked on, the creak of the floorboard near the bathroom that warned him he was about to walk into the doorframe. Sound was Harrison's sight now. Valor's collar jingled. The dog was coming closer. Harrison felt the warm weight of the shepherd's head rest on his thigh. He reached down automatically, fingers finding the spot behind Valor's right ear that the dog liked scratched. "Morning, buddy," Harrison said quietly. Valor's tail thumped against the floor. 3 beats. That was his happy rhythm. Harrison took a careful sip of coffee. Still too hot. He set the mug down and reached across the table for the portable radio. His fingers found the power button raised distinct from the volume dial and clicked it on. Static hissed, then resolved into the familiar voice of the local NPR host. "Reports from the Veterans Affairs Office indicate ongoing delays in processing disability claims, with some veterans waiting up to 18 months for..." Harrison turned it off. He didn't need to hear that story. He was living it. Had been for 7 years, ever since the progressive retinal damage from the 2005 Baghdad IED blast finally completed its slow theft of his vision. The VA had rated him 100% disabled. Eventually. After 2 years of appeals and medical evaluations and forms that required someone else to fill out because Harrison couldn't see to sign his own name. The government had given him a monthly check. Not enough to live on, but enough to not starve. They'd given him access to veteran services, most of which required transportation he didn't have to facilities across town he couldn't navigate alone. What they hadn't given him was valor. He'd gotten the dog himself. Through a non-profit called Second Chances Service Animals. They'd matched him with a retired military working dog in 2019, the same year Harrison's vision finally failed completely. A 7-year partnership between a blind ranger and a dog who'd seen more combat than most soldiers. Valor had served 3 tours in Iraq, 2008 through 2012. Explosives detection. He'd saved countless lives by finding IEDs before they found convoys. His handler, a young lieutenant named Dalton, fresh out of West Point with more courage than sense, had died in 2012 when the Humvee he was riding in hit a pressure plate bomb the size of a dinner plate buried 3 feet underground. Valor had been in the vehicle behind it. He'd watched his handler die. After that, the Army retired him. Too traumatized, they said. Couldn't work anymore.
Harrison understood that feeling. They'd both spent years learning how to live with what they'd lost.
How to function when the world kept moving and you were stuck in the dark, haunted by sounds and smells that brought you back to places you'd never truly left. Now they helped each other navigate. Valor guided Harrison through a world he couldn't see. Harrison gave Valor purpose again. A mission. Someone to protect. It wasn't therapy. It was survival. Harrison finished his coffee and stood slowly. His right leg complained it always did in the morning. The shrapnel fragments were still in there. Too close to the femoral artery to remove safely, the surgeons had said. So they'd left them. 38 pieces of Iraqi pavement embedded in his thigh like metallic memories. He walked to the sink by counting steps. 5 from the table. His hand found the faucet. He rinsed the mug, set it in the dish rack by feel. Then he turned and moved carefully across the kitchen to the hooks by the door where he kept Valor's service vest and his own jacket. His fingers traced the patches on the vest. Smooth nylon. Raised embroidered letters he couldn't read but knew by heart. Service dog. Do not pet. Veteran. He bent down, knee popping audibly, and Valor stepped into the vest without being asked. Good boy. Harrison fastened the buckles, checked the fit by running his hand along the dog's spine, snug but not tight. Then he pulled on his own jacket. Canvas. Worn soft at the elbows. It had been his civilian coat for 20 years. Before the army. After the army. Through a marriage that lasted 9 years and ended quietly when his wife admitted she couldn't handle coming home to a man who woke up screaming 3 nights a week. Harrison didn't blame her. He could barely handle himself most days. He picked up his white cane from beside the door. Fiberglass. Collapsible. Red and white stripes that he'd been told were highly visible. He extended it with a practiced flick of his wrist. The segments locked with a metallic click. Ready? He asked Valor. The dog's tail thumped against the doorframe. Harrison opened the door and stepped into the hallway. Tuesday, November 16th, 8:15 in the morning. Time to walk 5 blocks to the VA clinic and pick up his monthly prescriptions. Metformin for the diabetes, gabapentin for the nerve pain, prazosin for the nightmares. Pills that made life manageable, that let him sleep more than 4 hours without jerking awake, convinced he was back in Fallujah with the building burning and the insurgents closing in and his radio dead and his ammunition running low, and Harrison stopped himself, breathed, counted to 5 like the VA therapist had taught him. The past was the past. Today was just a walk to the clinic. He locked his apartment door and started down the hallway with Valor at his left side. The dog knew the route, had walked it dozens of times. But Harrison kept the cane extended anyway, sweeping it left and right, feeling for obstacles. Trust, but verify. That was the Ranger way. The November air hit Harrison's face as they exited the apartment building. Cold, damp. Portland in autumn smelled like wet pavement and fallen leaves and the faint exhaust from morning traffic. Harrison pulled his jacket collar higher and let Valor lead him down the sidewalk. They'd gone half a block when a voice called out, "Morning, Mr. Cole." Harrison turned toward the sound. Female, young, familiar. Grace. That's right. Footsteps approached. The smell of cinnamon and sugar wafted closer. Got your usual here. Well, Valor's usual. Grace Sullivan owned the bakery on the corner, Sullivan's Sweet Shop, a name Harrison had heard enough times to have memorized. She was 32, unmarried, had moved to Portland from Vermont 5 years ago. Harrison knew this because Grace talked while he waited for her to bag up the cinnamon roll she always saved for Valor. You didn't have to do that, Harrison said, but he was already reaching for his wallet. Please, it's day old. I'd just throw it out. Grace's voice moved lower. Harrison heard her knees crack as she crouched. Hey there, handsome. You being good for Mr. Cole? Valor's tail swished against Harrison's leg. He's always good, Harrison said. He found a $5 bill in his wallet by touch. The corner was folded over and held it out. For the roll. Mr. Cole, it's literally 50 cents worth of... For the coffee fund, then. Grace sighed, but took the bill. You're stubborn, you know that. I've been told. Paper rustled. Grace stood back up. Here you go. 1 cinnamon roll for the best boy in Portland. She paused. You know I never asked. Did Valor serve with you? Harrison shook his head. Different tours. I was out by the time he deployed. Got him through a service dog program in 2019. He was military, though. Military working dog. 3 tours. Iraq. Explosives detection. Grace was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice had changed, softer. What happened to his first handler? Harrison's jaw tightened. Killed in action. 2012. Lieutenant named Dalton. Good kid. God. I'm sorry. Wasn't your fault. Still. Another pause. Does he have nightmares like do dogs get PTSD? It was a question Harrison had asked himself 100 times, watching Valor jerk awake from sleep growling at nothing, seeing the dog freeze at the sound of a car backfiring, body-rigid eyes distant. Yeah, Harrison said quietly. They do. Grace didn't say anything. Harrison heard her shift her weight from foot to foot. Uncomfortable. People always got uncomfortable when the conversation turned real. Well, she said finally, you two take care, and Valor enjoy that role. Thanks, Grace. Footsteps retreated. The bakery door chimed as it opened and closed. Harrison waited a moment, then reached down and broke off a piece of the cinnamon roll. He felt Valor's wet nose nudge his palm. The dog took the treat gently, the way military working dogs were trained, no teeth, just lips and tongue. Good boy, Harrison murmured. They continued down the sidewalk, 4 more blocks to the clinic. Harrison counted intersections by the change in street sounds. The rumble of cars on asphalt gave way to the smoother hum of the crosswalk. The electronic chirp of the pedestrian signal, rapid beeps for walk, slow beeps for don't walk, told him when to cross. Valor knew the signals too. He stopped automatically at the curb of Pine Street and Fifth Avenue. Harrison felt the dog's body shift, checking traffic before they entered the crosswalk. This was the routine. This was safety. Harrison waited for the rapid beeps. They came. He stepped off the curb with Valor pulling gently against the harness. 3 steps into the intersection, everything went wrong. The siren came from Harrison's right. Close. Too close. The sharp whoop-whoop of a police cruiser cutting through morning traffic. Harrison froze. Valor stopped immediately, trained to halt when his handler did. The siren grew louder. Tires squealed. Harrison's heart rate spiked. His left hand tightened on Valor's harness. His right hand gripped the cane harder. He turned his head right toward the sound, trying to gauge distance. Was the cruiser coming at them? Past them. The acoustics of the intersection made it hard to tell. Move! Someone shouted. A man's voice. Strained. Urgent. But Harrison didn't know who the man was talking to. Didn't know which direction to move. Couldn't see if he was in danger, or if the danger was somewhere else entirely. Valor barked. Once. Sharp. Warning. That's when Harrison knew the threat was close. He heard a car door slam open. Footsteps on pavement. Running. 2 sets. Coming toward him fast. Stop right there. Another shout. Different voice. Younger. Police, don't move. Harrison's breath caught. Police. Were they talking to him? He raised his white cane higher, extending his arm so it would be visible. Officer, I can't see. I said don't move. The voice was right in front of him now, maybe 10 feet away. Control your dog. Valor's bark deepened. The dog moved forward, placing himself between Harrison and the approaching footsteps. Protective. Alert. Harrison's mind raced. What was happening? What had he done? He was just crossing the street, just walking to the clinic. He had his cane. Valor had his vest, the vest that clearly said, Service Dog, in letters big enough to read from 20 feet away. Couldn't they see, Officer, please? Harrison kept his voice calm, steady, the way he'd been trained in ranger school when facing hostile locals. I'm blind. My dog is a service animal. I don't know what's happening. Sir, get on the ground. I can't see where the ground... Now. Harrison's heart was hammering. His palms were sweating. This was wrong. This was all wrong. He'd done everything right. He'd waited for the signal. He'd used the crosswalk. He was following the law. Valor barked again, louder. The dog's body was tense against Harrison's leg. Control that animal, or we will control it for you. Harrison reached down, trying to calm Valor with a touch. Easy, boy. Easy. But Valor wasn't easy. The dog sensed danger. Threat. His handler surrounded by aggressive strangers. Every instinct from 3 combat tours was telling him to defend. Harrison heard more footsteps. Someone circling to his left. He turned that direction. Please, officers. I don't understand what's... The taser hit Valor first. The sound was like a whip crack. Valor yelped, high-pained, terrified, and Harrison felt the harness jerk in his hand as the dog went down. No. Harrison dropped to his knees, hands reaching wildly for Valor. He's a service dog. His fingers found fur, warm, trembling, not moving right. Valor. Harrison's voice broke. Valor, buddy, it's okay, Stop resisting. I'm not. The second taser hit Harrison in the chest. Electricity ripped through his nervous system like napalm. Every muscle contracted at once. His back arched. His hands clawed at nothing. He couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but feel the white-hot agony burning through his body. He hit the pavement hard. His head bounced off asphalt. Stars exploded behind his blind eyes. Somewhere distant he heard screaming. Multiple voices. A woman. "What are you doing?" A man. "He's blind. Look at his cane." Another voice. "That's Cole. That's Ranger Cole." Someone in the crowd had a police scanner app. The audio crackled from a phone speaker. Morrison's voice clear and unmistakable. "Probably another homeless faker. Disability con. Let's move him along." Another voice. Younger. Uncertain. "Blake, I don't think—" Morrison again. "I said, let's move him." The crowd's anger exploded into shouts and accusations, but Harrison couldn't process the words. He was drowning in pain and confusion and the terrible certainty that Valor wasn't moving, that his dog, his partner, his guide, the only being on this earth who understood what it meant to survive what they'd survived, was hurt. Harrison's hand scraped across wet pavement, searching. Found Valor's side. The dog's chest rose and fell. Shallow. Too shallow. "Please," Harrison whispered. Blood filled his mouth. "Please, someone help him." His vision, already gone for 7 years, faded to something darker than blindness. And then there was nothing. Officer Blake Morrison sat in the passenger seat of Unit 12 and tried not to think about the fact that his shift ended in 45 minutes and he had a dentist appointment at 10, that his wife would kill him if he missed again. Beside him, Officer Trent Walker drummed his fingers on the steering wheel and hummed something that might have been country music, but was mostly just off-key noise. "You mind?" Morrison asked. "What?" "The humming. It's giving me a headache." Walker stopped, paused, started again. "I don't even know I'm doing it, man." Morrison sighed and stared out the window at the passing streets of southeast Portland. Tuesday morning, light traffic, quiet. The kind of shift where nothing happened and you went home wondering why you'd spent 8 hours driving in circles. He'd been with Portland PD for 9 years. Started young. 22, fresh out of community college with a criminal justice degree and ideas about making a difference. Protecting people. Being one of the good guys. 9 years later, he was 31, divorced, living in a studio apartment that smelled like old carpet and wondering when exactly the job had turned from calling to paycheck. The radio crackled. "All units, we have a 211 in progress. Armed robbery. Suspect fleeing on foot from Quick Mart on Powell Boulevard. White male, dark jacket, jeans, approximately 6 feet. Morrison grabbed the handset. "Unit 12 responding. We're 2 blocks south." Walker hit the lights and siren without being asked. The cruiser surged forward. This was the part Morrison still liked. The response. The moment when training kicked in and everything else faded away. No bills, no ex-wife, no appointments, just the job. They reached Powell in 90 seconds. Morrison scanned the street. Pedestrians, cars, a guy in a dark jacket crossing at the intersection ahead. "There," Morrison pointed. "Dark jacket, could be him." Walker squinted. "I don't know, man. That guy looks old." Dispatch said white male, dark jacket. Dispatch said 6 feet. That guy's maybe 5'10". Morrison felt irritation spike in his chest. Walker was a rookie. 10 months on the job. Still thought everything had to be by the book. Still believed that if you followed procedure, everything worked out. Morrison knew better. "Just pull up," he said. Walker guided the cruiser alongside the pedestrian. Morrison rolled down his window. The guy was older, yeah? Maybe late 50s. Dark jacket, jeans, walking with some kind of dog, German shepherd. "Sir, stop right there," Morrison called out. The man turned toward the sound, didn't look at Morrison, looked past him, through him. That was when Morrison noticed the cane. White, red stripes. Oh shit. "Officer, I can't see," the man started, but Morrison's adrenaline was already spiking. The dog was barking now, big, aggressive looking, and Morrison had been bitten by a dog during a domestic call 2 years ago. 14 stitches in his forearm, rabies shots. He was out of the cruiser before he thought about it, hand moving toward his belt. Not for the gun, he wasn't that far gone, but the taser. The taser was safe. The taser was non-lethal. "Control your dog," Morrison heard himself shout. The dog was barking louder, stepping forward. Morrison's pulse hammered in his ears. Walker was out of the cruiser now too. "Blake, wait. Sir, get on the ground." The blind man, because he was clearly blind, the cane was right there. How had Morrison not seen it, raised the cane higher? "I'm blind. My dog is a service animal." But Morrison wasn't hearing it. He was locked in. Tunnel vision. The dog was a threat. The man wasn't complying. Morrison's training said control the situation. His hand pulled the taser free. "Blake!" Walker's voice sharp.
He's blind, man. Look at his vest. Morrison looked, saw the patches on the dog's vest. Service dog, do not pet. For half a second, clarity broke through. He was about to tase a blind man's service dog. Then the dog barked again, and Morrison's finger was already on the trigger and muscle memory took over. The taser fired.
The dog went down. The blind man dropped to his knees, screaming, reaching for the dog. And Morrison stood there, taser still extended, watching the situation spiral completely out of control. Walker was shouting something. The blind man was on the ground now, hands on the dog, and Morrison's brain was screaming at him to stop, to help to fix this. But his body moved on autopilot. The man was on the ground, not complying, resisting. Morrison fired again. The blind man convulsed and collapsed. The street erupted. People were running toward them. Someone was screaming. Multiple someones. Phones were up. Recording. Morrison's hands started shaking. What had he done? Jesus Christ, Blake! Walker grabbed Morrison's shoulder. What the hell were you thinking? Morrison couldn't answer. He was staring at the blind man on the ground, at the white cane lying in the street, at the dog with the service dog vest. A woman pushed past Morrison and dropped to her knees beside the blind man. She was maybe early 30s, bakery uniform. "Mr. Cole." She touched his face, checked his pulse. "Someone call an ambulance." An older man, 70s maybe, was on his phone, but he wasn't calling 911, he was calling someone else. "Yeah, this is William Thatcher. I need you to listen to me. Harrison Cole is down. The ranger who held Falcon, Pine and 5th. He's been tased by Portland PD. Get someone here now." Morrison's stomach dropped. Ranger. This man was a veteran. Walker grabbed Morrison's arm. "We need to call this in. We need... Unit 12, what's your status?" The radio crackled from the cruiser. Morrison couldn't move, couldn't think. All he could see was the blind man on the ground, the service dog not moving. Around them the crowd was growing, angry, phones everywhere, and somewhere in the distance Morrison heard a sound that made his blood run cold. The deep rumble of heavy engines. Multiple vehicles, coming fast. "Blake," Walker whispered. "What the hell did you just do?" Morrison didn't have an answer. He'd just tased a blind veteran and his service dog in the middle of a Portland street. And someone had made a phone call. The engines were getting closer. Major Rachel Stone was reviewing supply requisitions when her desk phone rang. Not the regular line, the emergency line, the one that only rang when something had gone seriously wrong. She picked up. "Stone. Major, this is Sergeant Thatcher. William Thatcher. Gulf War vet, civilian now." The voice was tight, controlled, but Stone could hear the urgency underneath. "I need immediate military response to a civilian location. Officer-involved incident with a veteran." Stone's hand was already reaching for her keyboard. "What's the location?" "Pine Street and 5th Avenue, downtown Portland. Veteran named Harrison Cole has been assaulted by local police." Stone froze. Her fingers hovered over the keys. "Say that name again." "Harrison Cole. Ranger. Served Fallujah, 2004. He's... I know who he is." Stone was already standing, already moving toward the door. "What's his condition?" "Down. Tased. Him and his service dog. Unconscious. I've got civilians calling for ambulance, but the officers involved are still on scene and..." "I'm rolling now. 7 minutes out. Keep that veteran safe, Sergeant." "Yes, ma'am." Stone hung up and hit the base-wide emergency channel on her radio. "This is Major Stone. I need an MP Unit 3 vehicles and a medical team to civilian location in downtown Portland immediately. Authorization code Stone 17. This is Priority Alpha." Responses crackled back instantly. Stone was already running for the motor pool. Harrison Cole. She knew that name. Knew it from the citation she'd read 100 times. The after-action report from Fallujah, November 2004, when a Ranger lieutenant held a building solo for 8 hours against overwhelming enemy force. Stone had been a corporal then, 19 years old. Part of a Marine quick reaction force pinned down 3 blocks from where Lieutenant Harrison Cole was calling in airstrikes on his own position to keep insurgents from overrunning American wounded. 9 Marines had survived that day because Harrison Cole refused to leave his post. Stone had been one of them. She reached the motor pool. 3 Humvees were already rumbling to life. MPs were climbing in, checking weapons, securing gear. Stone grabbed her helmet and vest and climbed into the lead vehicle. "Move out. Fastest route to Pine and 5th. Do not stop for traffic." The convoy rolled. Stone's hands clenched into fists on her knees. Harrison Cole. Blind now, according to the file she'd reviewed when his Medal of Honor petition had crossed her desk 3 months ago. Living on disability. Service dog for mobility. Tased by police. On American soil. The Humvee's engine roared as they hit the highway.
Stone keyed her radio. All units be advised. This veteran saved Marine lives under fire. We owe him. When we arrive, I want that scene secured and those officers detained for questioning. No exceptions. Roger that, Major. Stone watched Portland pass by outside the reinforced windows. 7 minutes. Thatcher had said 7 minutes. She hoped Harrison Cole could hold on that long. Behind her, the convoy thundered through morning traffic like a force of nature. They were coming, and someone was about to learn what happened when you hurt one of their own. The Humvees didn't slow for red lights. Major Rachel Stone gripped the overhead handle as the lead vehicle took a corner hard enough to make the tires scream. Behind her, 2 more military vehicles followed in tight formation. Pedestrians scattered. Cars pulled to the curb. The convoy moved through downtown Portland like a steel fist. 6 minutes since the phone call. Stone's radio crackled. Major, we're getting multiple civilian reports. Video already circulating on social media. Crowds growing at the scene. Copy that. Maintain formation. We're 90 seconds out. Through the windshield, Stone could see the intersection ahead. Police lights strobing blue and red. A crowd forming on the sidewalk. Phones held high, recording everything. And in the middle of it all, she could just make out 2 figures on the ground. There, she said. That's our veteran. The driver nodded. I see him, ma'am. The Humvee lurched to a halt 15 feet from the police cruiser. Stone was out before the vehicle fully stopped. Her boots hit pavement with purpose. Behind her, 12 military police officers dismounted in synchronized precision. The scene locked into sharp focus. A man lay on his side on the wet asphalt. Late 50s grey hair, wearing a jacket and jeans. His white cane lay 3 feet away, the red and white stripes bright against dark pavement. Blood trickled from his temple where his head had struck the ground. Beside him, a German shepherd lay motionless. The dog's service vest had been partially pulled off in the fall. Stone could see the patch's service dog. Veteran. Working. Do not pet. A woman in a bakery uniform knelt beside the man, checking his pulse. An older civilian, Stone recognized the bearing of a veteran, immediately stood between the downed man and 2 police officers who looked like they'd been flash-frozen mid-panic. Stone's jaw tightened. She'd seen combat. Fallujah. Helmand Province. She'd pulled wounded Marines out of kill zones and held pressure on arterial bleeds and called in medevacs under fire. But this made her angrier than any firefight. Step back from that, veteran. Stone's voice cut through the noise of the crowd like a blade. Now. The 2 officers turned. The younger one, dark hair, maybe late 20s, rookie written all over his face, took an instinctive step backward. The older one, early 30s, tried to hold his ground. This is a Portland PD scene, the older officer said. You don't have jurisdiction? Stone closed the distance between them in 4 strides. She was 5'7". The officer had 6 inches on her. She didn't care. That man on the ground is Harrison Cole, Army Ranger, served Fallujah, 2004, Medal of Honor nominee. She gestured to the dog. That's a retired military working dog. Both are under military jurisdiction as of right now. Ma'am, with all respect, did you tase them? The officer's mouth opened, closed. His eyes cut to his partner. Stone didn't need an answer. The evidence was right there. The taser cartridges on the ground, the probe wires still connected to Valor's vest. Body cameras, Stone said. Give them to me, now. We can't just... Stone keyed her radio without breaking eye contact. Sergeant Martinez, secure all evidence at this scene. Tasers, cameras, anything connected to this incident. Federal authority under Military Protection Act. 2 MPs moved forward immediately. The older officer's hand moved toward his belt. Don't, Stone said quietly. You've already assaulted a disabled veteran. Don't make this worse by obstructing. Behind her, a medic team was already working on Harrison. Stone heard low voices. Pulse is weak, but steady. Pupils non-responsive, but that's consistent with documented blindness. Head trauma, possible concussion. We need to get him to base medical. Another medic knelt beside Valor. Stone watched from the corner of her eye as the young corpsman, couldn't be more than 22, gently examined the dog. Ma'am, the medic called. The dog's in bad shape. Cardiac arrhythmia from the electrical shock. He needs a vet, now. Stone nodded. Load them both.
We're going to Lewis McCord. Full military transport. You can't just take them, the older officer protested. There are procedures. Stone turned on him, really looked at him for the first time. She saw fear, poorly hidden behind bravado, saw the slight tremor in his hands, saw a man who knew he'd made a catastrophic mistake and was desperately hoping he could talk his way out of it. She'd seen that look before, on young soldiers who'd fired on the wrong target, who'd kicked in the wrong door, who'd let adrenaline override training and judgment. But those soldiers had been in war zones, under fire, making split-second decisions in chaos.
This man had tased a blind veteran walking his service dog across a Portland street at 8 in the morning. "Your procedures ended when you assaulted a decorated veteran," Stone said. "I'm taking custody of Harrison Cole and his service animal. You can file a complaint with the Department of Defense."
She pulled out her phone and started recording. "For the record, I am Major Rachel Stone, Military Police Joint Base Lewis McCord. The time is 08:54 hours. I am assuming custody of Army veteran Harrison Cole and retired military working dog Valor, who were both assaulted by Portland police officers at this location." She turned the camera toward the officers. "State your names and badge numbers." The older officer's face went red. "I don't have to. Blake Morrison, badge 7439. The younger officer stepped forward. His voice shook. "I'm Officer Trent Walker, badge 8162. We made a mistake. We thought—" "Walker, shut up," Morrison hissed. But Walker kept going. "We thought he was a suspect. We didn't see the cane at first. I tried to tell Morrison that he was blind, but—" "I said shut up!" Stone lowered the phone. "Officers Morrison and Walker, you're both being detained pending investigation. You'll be transferred to military custody for questioning regarding assault on a federal veteran." Morrison's face went from red to white. "You can't arrest us. We're police officers." "I can, and I am. Sergeant Martinez." The MP stepped forward with zip-tie restraints. "So, ma'am, turn around and place your hands behind your back." "This is insane." Morrison looked around wildly, to the crowd, to his partner, to anyone. "We were doing our job. The dog was aggressive. He wasn't complying." Stone felt something cold settle in her chest. She'd heard these excuses before. Different context, same pattern. It's always someone else's fault. The victim didn't comply. The victim was threatening. The victim looked like a threat. The victim. Never the officer who couldn't tell the difference between a threat and a blind man with a white cane. "The dog," Stone said slowly, "was wearing a vest that says service dog in letters large enough to read from 20 feet away. The man was carrying a white cane, the international symbol for blindness. He was crossing the street legally at a marked crosswalk." She stepped closer. "So tell me, Officer Morrison, what part of that seemed threatening to you?" Morrison's mouth worked. No sound came out. Walker was crying now, silent tears running down his face as Martinez cuffed him. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry. I tried to stop him. I saw the vest, but Morrison was already—" "Save it for your statement," Stone said. Stone's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out and glanced at the screen. Text from her intelligence officer. "Morrison connection confirmed. Blake Morrison equals nephew of Police Chief Daniel Brooks through marriage. Brooks signed off on all Morrison's excessive force complaints. 8 total in 3 years, all buried." Stone's jaw clenched. This wasn't just 2 bad cops making a mistake. This was systemic. This was protected. This was a pattern that went straight to the top. She looked at Morrison with new understanding. He'd been doing this for years. Knew he could get away with it. Had Uncle Brooks to clean up the mess. Not this time. Behind her, Harrison was being loaded onto a stretcher. His hand dangled off the side fingers, still searching for something. Valor. Even unconscious, even tased and bleeding, the man was trying to find his dog. The medic carefully placed Harrison's hand on his chest. "Sir, if you can hear me, your dog is okay. We're taking care of him. We're taking care of both of you." Harrison's lips moved. Stone couldn't hear what he said, but she saw the medic lean closer. "He's asking if Valor's breathing," the medic reported. "I told him yes." Stone watched as they loaded Harrison into the back of the medical Humvee. Watched as a second team carefully lifted Valor onto a modified transport carrier. The dog's chest rose and fell in shallow, rapid breaths. His legs twitched, dreaming or seizing. Stone couldn't tell. She turned back to the crowd. Phones were still recording. Good. Let them record. Let the whole world see this. "My name is Major Rachel Stone," she said loudly, projecting to the civilians. "The man you just saw assaulted is Harrison Cole, Army Ranger. He served in Fallujah in 2004. He held a defensive position alone for 8 hours to protect wounded Marines. 9 Marines survived that day because of him." She pointed to the police cruiser. "These officers tased him and his service dog while he was legally crossing the street. They're being detained. There will be an investigation, and there will be consequences." Someone in the crowd shouted, "About damn time." Another voice, "He's a hero." A third, "This is bullshit. They always get away with it." Stone held up a hand. "Not this time. I give you my word as a United States Marine. Not this time." She turned and walked to the lead Humvee, climbed in, keyed her radio. "All units, we're moving out. Medical transport first. Detainees in Vehicle 2. I want a full report on my desk in 1 hour. The convoy began to roll. Stone looked back through the rear window. The crowd was still there, still recording. The intersection looked like a crime scene now, which is exactly what it was. Her phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. Video already has 200K views on Twitter. #Justice for Harrison trending. Stone closed her eyes briefly. This was going to explode. A blind veteran tased while walking his service dog. The optics were catastrophic for Portland PD. Good. Maybe catastrophic was what it took to change things. Dr. Sarah Vance had been a military veterinarian for 16 years. She'd treated working dogs in Iraq, Afghanistan, and half a dozen other places she couldn't talk about. She'd saved dogs who'd been shot, blown up, poisoned, and burned. But she'd never treated a dog who'd been tased by police. Valor lay on the exam table, sedated but stable. Vance studied the monitors. Heart rate elevated but steady. Blood pressure borderline. EKG showing irregular rhythm, atrial fibrillation, probably from the electrical shock. She ran her hands along the dog's spine, felt him flinch even through the sedation. "Talk to me," Major Stone said from the doorway. Vance didn't look up. 50,000-volt discharge directly to the chest. He's lucky to be alive. The taser prongs hit here. She indicated 2 small burns on Valor's chest, about 6 inches from his heart. The electricity caused cardiac arrhythmia. His heart stopped twice on the way here. Stone's jaw tightened. Prognosis. The heart issue we can manage with medication, but... Vance moved her hands to Valor's hindquarters. "The fall after the shock caused spinal trauma. T12L1 region. There's swelling. Possible nerve damage." "Can he walk?" Vance met Stone's eyes. "I don't know yet. The swelling needs to come down before we can assess nerve function." "But even if the nerves are intact, he may need permanent mobility assistance, brace, cart, something." Stone was quiet for a moment. "Does Harrison know?" "I don't think Harrison knows anything right now. He's still unconscious. When he wakes up, this is going to destroy him." Vance returned her attention to Valor, gently stroked the dog's head. "This dog has seen combat. 3 tours. He survived IEDs, gunfire, heat exhaustion, watched his handler die." She looked up. "And a police officer tased him for barking. The officer said the dog was aggressive. The dog was protecting his handler." Vance pointed to the service vest hanging on a nearby chair. "It's what he's trained to do. It's what he's wired to do. You approach his handler aggressively, he's going to respond." Stone pulled out her phone, opened the video she'd recorded at the scene, hit play. The footage was shaky, but clear. Harrison crossing the street, white cane extended. Valor in perfect heel position, vest visible. Then the police cruiser, the shouting, Harrison turning toward the sound, confusion on his face. Valor stepping forward, not attacking, not lunging, just positioning himself between his blind handler and perceived threat. Then the taser, Valor's body convulsing, Harrison dropping to his knees, hands searching. The second taser. Vance watched the whole thing. When it ended, she was gripping the edge of the exam table hard enough to make her knuckles white. "That's attempted murder," she said quietly. "That's what I'm going to make sure the investigation concludes." Vance looked at Stone. Really looked at her. "You know him? Cole? You know him personally?" It wasn't a question. Stone nodded. "Fallujah, November 7th, 2004. I was 19. Corporal. My quick reaction force was pinned down 3 blocks from an aid station. Insurgents had us surrounded. We were taking fire from 3 directions. Our radio man was dead. Our squad leader was bleeding out from a gut shot." She paused, looked at the phone still in her hand. "Then we heard it. Air support. Danger close. So close the building we were in shook from the blast. Later we found out a ranger lieutenant was calling in strikes on his own position, keeping the insurgents busy so they couldn't flank us. Gave us time to evac our wounded." "Cole," Vance said. "Cole. He held that building for 8 hours, alone. When we finally fought our way to him, he was down to his last magazine, shrapnel in his leg. Eyes already going bad from the blast damage, but we didn't know it yet." Stone's voice roughened. 9 Marines walked away from that ambush. I was one of them. Vance understood now. This wasn't just about justice for Stone. This was personal. This was debt. "He's going to want to see his dog," Vance said. "First thing when he wakes up. Can you make that happen?" "I'll make it happen." A knock at the door. An MP corporal stuck his head in. "Major, the civilian reporter is here. Marcus Flynn.
Says you told him he could interview you about the incident. Stone had made that call from the Humvee. Flynn was former Army, combat journalist, embedded with units in Iraq. If anyone was going to tell this story right, it was him. "Give me 5 minutes," Stone said. "Then send him to conference room B." The corporal left. Stone turned back to Vance. "Keep me updated on Valor's condition. Every hour." "Will do." Stone started to leave, then stopped. "One more thing. Can he be moved, the dog?" "Depends on where." "Harrison's room, when he wakes up." Vance smiled slightly. It was the first time she'd smiled since this nightmare started. "Yeah, I can make that work." Harrison woke to the smell of antiseptic and the sound of machines beeping. For a few seconds he didn't remember. Didn't know where he was or how he'd gotten there. His head pounded. His chest ached. His mouth tasted like copper and chemicals.
Then it all came back. The intersection, the police, the shouting, Valor barking, the crack of the taser. Valor. Harrison tried to sit up. Pain shot through his ribs. Someone's hand pressed gently on his shoulder. "Easy, sir. You're in a military hospital. Joint Base Lewis McCord. You're safe." Harrison didn't recognize the voice. Female, young, calm. "Where's my dog?" His own voice came out rough, barely a whisper. "Your dog is being treated by our veterinary team. He's alive." Alive. Not okay. Alive. Harrison's hands gripped the bed rail. "I need to see him." "Sir, you need to rest. You've been unconscious for almost 2 hours. You have a concussion, bruised ribs from the fall." "I need to see my dog." Harrison's voice rose. "Now, please." The woman nurse Harrison assumed hesitated. "Let me get the doctor." Footsteps retreated. Harrison lay there staring at nothing with eyes that had seen nothing for 7 years and tried not to panic. Valor was alive. That's what she'd said. Alive. But alive could mean a lot of things. Alive could mean paralyzed, could mean brain damage, could mean alive but broken in ways that couldn't be fixed. Harrison had seen that before, in Iraq. Soldiers who survived the blast but didn't really survive, who came home with bodies that worked but minds that didn't, or vice versa. He'd been one of them. Technically alive after Baghdad, technically functional. But it had taken years before he felt like anything more than a ghost wearing Harrison Cole's face. Valor had been part of that recovery. The dog had given him purpose, direction, something to care for besides his own slow slide into isolation. If Valor didn't make it if the dog was hurt too badly to recover. Harrison couldn't finish the thought. New footsteps, heavier, more than one person. "Mr. Cole," a man's voice this time, older, authority in it. "I'm Dr. Philip Reeves. I've been treating you since you arrived." Harrison nodded. "Harrison. Where's Valor?" "Your dog is with Dr. Vance, our head veterinarian. She's excellent." "I didn't ask if she was excellent. I asked where he is." A pause. Harrison heard whispered conversation. Couldn't make out the words. Then, "We're moving him to your room. It'll take about 20 minutes to get the equipment set up. But you'll be able to be near him." Harrison's throat tightened. They'd almost said see him. Almost made that mistake. "Thank you," he managed. More footsteps. Someone approaching the bed. "Mr. Cole, I'm Major Rachel Stone, military police. I was at the scene. I brought you here." Harrison turned his head toward her voice. "Why?" "Because those officers had no right to do what they did. You don't even know me. I know who you are." Stone's voice changed, softened. "Fallujah, November 2004. You held Checkpoint Falcon for 8 hours. My unit was pinned down 3 blocks away. You called in air support that saved our lives." Harrison's memory flickered. Fallujah, the building, the radio, the insurgents coming in waves, the decision to call in strikes so close he could feel the heat from the explosions through the walls. "You were a Marine," he said. It wasn't a question. "Corporal Rachel Stone, 19 years old, scared out of my mind." A pause. "You saved 9 of us that day." Harrison didn't know what to say to that. He'd done his job, that was all. Followed his training, made the calls he had to make to keep his people alive. But Stone seemed to think he was some kind of hero. He wasn't. Heroes didn't end up blind and alone in studio apartments, living on disability checks and counting steps to the bathroom. "The officers who tased you are in custody," Stone continued. We have body camera footage, witness statements. This is going to be a federal investigation. I don't want to be part of an investigation. I just want Valor back. I understand. But this isn't just about you anymore.
Those officers have a pattern. This isn't the first time. We found evidence that Officer Morrison is connected to Police Chief Daniel Brooks. Brooks has been covering up excessive force complaints for years. 8 incidents involving Morrison alone. All buried. Harrison's hands tightened on the bed rail. I don't care. Stone went quiet. Harrison took a breath, tried to calm down. I'm sorry. I can't think about that right now. I need to know if my dog is going to be okay. Dr. Vance will give you a full report when she brings Valor up. But I want you to prepare yourself. The taser caused cardiac issues, and the fall damaged his spine. Harrison's world tilted. Spine damage. Paralysis. A working dog who couldn't work anymore. How bad? He whispered. We don't know yet. The swelling needs to go down before we can assess nerve function. Harrison nodded slowly. He felt disconnected from his body. Floating. This couldn't be real.
This morning he'd been walking to the VA clinic. Normal Tuesday. Routine. Now Valor might never walk again because a police officer couldn't tell the difference between a service dog and a threat. Mr. Cole, Stone's voice pulled him back. I promise you, we're going to make this right. You can't make this right. My dog is hurt. You can't undo that. No, but I can make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else. Harrison turned his face away. He heard Stone leave, heard the door close quietly. And then he was alone with the machines and the pain and the terrible certainty that nothing was ever going to be the same again. 22 minutes later, they brought Valor in. Harrison heard the wheels of the gurney, heard the quiet voices of the medical staff setting up monitors, heard the electronic beep of equipment powering on. But he didn't hear Valor. No panting, no collar jingling, no movement. Is he sedated? Harrison asked. Yes, sir. Dr. Vance's voice. We have him on medication to stabilize his heart and reduce spinal inflammation. He's unconscious but stable. Can I touch him? Of course. A hand guided Harrison's arm. His fingers found fur, warm, rising and falling with breath. Harrison's hand settled on Valor's side, felt the steady rhythm of the dog's heart under his palm. Hey, buddy, Harrison whispered. I'm here. I'm right here. Valor didn't respond. Couldn't, but Harrison kept his hand there anyway. Dr. Vance explained the injuries in detail, the cardiac arrhythmia, the spinal trauma, the uncertainty about whether Valor would regain full use of his back legs. Harrison listened, absorbed the information, asked technical questions about treatment options and recovery timelines. But inside, he was screaming. This was his fault. He should have heard the police cruiser sooner, should have moved faster, should have done anything to protect Valor. The dog had saved his life, multiple times. In Iraq, when Valor had been partnered with Lieutenant Dalton, the dog had alerted to IEDs that would have killed convoys. And later, as Harrison's service animal, Valor had pulled him back from panic attacks, guided him through crowds, kept him tethered to reality when the nightmares got too bad. And Harrison had failed him. I'm going to step out, Dr. Vance said gently. Give you some privacy, but I'll be right outside if you need anything. Thank you. The door closed. Harrison was alone with Valor and the machines and his own guilt. He kept his hand on the dog's side, felt each breath, counted them. Somewhere outside this room the world was probably exploding. Videos going viral, news coverage, investigation, all the machinery of justice grinding into motion. Harrison didn't care about any of it. All he cared about was the 18-year-old German Shepherd breathing under his hand. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry, boy. This should never have happened to you. Valor's chest rose and fell. Harrison sat there in the dark, his permanent dark, and listened to the rhythm of his partner's breathing. His phone buzzed on the bedside table. Once, twice, 3 times in quick succession. A nurse entered quietly. Mr. Cole, you're getting a lot of messages. The video, it's everywhere. 3 million views in 4 hours. National news is calling. CNN, Fox, MSNBC. They all want to interview you. Harrison didn't respond. Didn't move his hand from Valor's side. The phone buzzed again. The nurse picked it up. There's a text here from someone named Marcus Flynn. Says he's an investigative journalist, former Army. He wants to talk to you about a pattern. Says Blake Morrison isn't the first officer involved in incidents like this.
That police chief Brooks has been covering them up for 3 years. Harrison's hand stilled on Vala's fur. The nurse continued reading. He says there are more victims.
That they need your help to bring this to light. Another buzz. This one's from Officer Meredith Shaw, Portland PD. She says she's been documenting abuse for 18 months, that she has evidence, but she needs protection to come forward. She's asking if the military can help. Harrison's throat tightened. More victims. A pattern. A system designed to protect officers like Morrison, while people like him, disabled, vulnerable, invisible, paid the price. The nurse set the phone down. What should I tell them? Nothing, Harrison said quietly. Not yet. The nurse left. Harrison returned his attention to Vala, to the rise and fall of the dog's chest, to the steady beep of the heart monitor that said his partner was still fighting. Outside the room, Major Stone stood in the hallway reading messages on her own phone. An anonymous email had just arrived. Major Stone, you want the truth about Portland PD, check Internal Affairs file number 2847R. Brooks's cover-up goes deeper than you think. Morrison isn't the only officer involved. There are 14 incidents, 14 victims, all buried, all silenced. Stone looked through the window at Harrison sitting beside his unconscious dog, at a blind veteran who'd survived war only to be attacked on his own street by the people sworn to protect him. This man had already sacrificed everything for his country. Now Stone was going to make damn sure he didn't have to fight this battle alone. She opened her laptop and typed, File number 2847R, access request, priority alpha, authorization, Major Rachel Stone, MP, Commander, JBLM. The system processed. A moment later, files began downloading. Stone scanned the first few pages. Her expression hardened with each line. 14 incidents spanning 3 years, disabled veterans, elderly citizens with mobility aids, every case involving excessive force. Every case signed off by Chief Daniel Brooks as justified use of force or unfounded complaint. Morrison had been involved in 8 of them, but there were other names too, other officers, a pattern of abuse that went beyond one bad cop. Stone's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. Major Stone, this is Officer Meredith Shaw. I need to meet with you. Tonight. I have documentation that Brooks ordered us to clear these cases. I have emails, audio recordings, but if I come forward without protection, my career is over. Maybe worse. Stone made a decision. Where are you? Safe house. Civilian location. I can send you the address. Send it. I'll be there in 1 hour. And Officer Shaw, you're doing the right thing. I hope so. Because after this, there's no going back. Stone hung up. Looked at Harrison through the window one more time. The veteran's hand rested on his dog's side. His head was bowed. His lips were moving, talking to Vala maybe. Or praying. Stone didn't know which, but she knew one thing with absolute certainty. This fight was just beginning, and she was going to make sure Harrison Cole got the justice he deserved, even if she had to tear down the entire Portland Police Department to do it.